So we got a couple people on now. So if you are watching live, do us a favor. Just let us know if you can hear us, if we sound okay, if you can see us okay. I think we see what you see, so it looks like it's okay, but we want to make sure you can hear us and not hopefully hear too much background noise, although there's nobody flying at the moment now.
I think once the sun starts setting, people are getting dinner and stuff like that, so quiets down a little bit.
It's a beautiful night to fly. I mean, the weather's been actually fantastic.
So I don't know if you've seen it, but whenever people fly nitro out here, the smoke just kind of lingers whenever there's no wind.
When
it's great.
Not windy,
it's a little bit windy today, though.
It is windy. Today was actually a windy-ish day, which that's actually one nice thing about helicopters is they don't get bothered by the wind as much. In fact, that's one of the reasons that I started flying helicopters.
Yeah.
Number one, because I couldn't always go to the field. From my house, it was 30, 40 minutes, and if it was windy, I couldn't fly airplanes really anyway, or I didn't want to.
Right.
This is before gyros, so now with gyros, wind is far less of an issue.
For sure.
Especially with even ultra micros.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary's flying the crescendo out there and the wind. And
it's nice. It's nice.
All right. I haven't seen any comments yet, but we got...
Not yet, but
got some
I think we got
viewers.
a couple people rolling through, and we'll give it a couple minutes, and if not, we could just go ahead and get started.
Yes.
But
it's been how many IRCHAs have you been to?
Let's see here. So IRCHA 2015 was my first IRCHA, and that was whenever I was getting into helicopters. Started flying 3D helicopters. Was on a simulator much longer before that.
Which one?
But Real Flight G 3.5.
3.5.
3.5.
So when you had that was old.
No, I was about 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You got that way before the 15
I got that way before. Played with it. Kind of saw it as a video game. Didn't really.
Yeah. Use it as a toy,
to real life.
Tool.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way. Like I don't know if you remember, but I had the demo version where you just flew with the keyboard.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then I think it was my dad got the full version for me for a present, and that's whenever I started actually using the controller. And dude, it was fun. It was fun, but as a kid, I saw it as a video game. But then whenever I transferred to real life, around 2014, 2015, it felt like the simulator. Like it was the same stick movements. Obviously, it was a little bit different. You have external factors that it's hard for a simulator, especially at that age, to replicate. But still, the stick movements are the same.
Yep. And that's one thing about, we'll talk a little bit more about Sims maybe in a bit here, because Real Flight is just, it's not only a great tool, it's a good way to try things. We'll be putting the Fusion 700 in Real Flight as a free update for everybody that has Evolution soon. So it's very exciting. That's definitely one of the places that we need to beef up Real Flight. And we're going to talk about why we are here live today to talk about helicopters. Let's go ahead and we'll get started.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, hello everyone, welcome to this live stream. You may be watching this later on after we do the live stream. We're going to download this and post it on YouTube, so you may see this again when it's not so live, and we apologize for the production quality, but we did want to do this live from IRCHA 2024, IRCHA Jamboree 2024.
Yeah, I think it's the 35th annual.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that many.
I think so.
35th annual, so wow. So man, back 35 years ago, helicopters were very difficult, very niche, very expensive. That's crazy. I didn't realize it had been that long. So,
I wasn't even around then, so Jason, you have to tell me from experience.
Well, I wasn't old enough to come to that yet. I didn't start flying RC until 1990.
Okay.
So I did fly a little bit before that. My grandfather flew, my dad flies, and so I had to wait until I was 10. That was the rule because it was back then nitro. It was dangerous.
It was a lot,
It was a lot more than what it is now. It's so much easier, far more accessible to get into the hobby now. Not just airplanes, but helicopters as well, which we're going to talk about today. And that's a big part of why we're here. We're excited to be at IRCHA.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
debut something new.
It's always fun.
And you were just mentioning that your first IRCHA was 2015.
2015. Yes.
So you've been here every year since?
Every year since, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is, my 10th IRCHA.
I'm trying to think. My first one probably would have been 2001 or 2002,
wow,
so a little over 20 years ago.
Okay.
And back then, helicopters were primarily nitro. There was a little bit of electric. That was around the time. The reason I came, as a matter of fact, was because I had worked for a company at the time that was bringing lipos to the mainstream. So I worked for a company called Thunder Power that I helped start a couple years before that, and we brought suitcases full of lipo batteries to sell. And it was crazy because we couldn't get them out of the suitcase fast enough to take people's money fast enough, because back then lipos were so unique and they were changing the landscape of everything. And now you look around, and actually it's funny, we hear a nitro helicopter right now, but that's been a rare thing to hear at this time.
Right.
It's almost all electric.
A lot of it is electric. It seems like nitro is starting to kind of creep back in.
Oh, okay.
From what I've seen, it's been on an incline.
And when you got in, was it nitro heavy?
Not really. No.
wasn't, okay.
I want to say it was, electric was the way to go.
I think nitro probably was more powerful in general than electric through the late 2000s, so like 2009, 2010. But
Gotcha.
after that, electric just really started to dominate
Yeah.
all across the board. So, but one of the reasons we are here today is I wanted to talk a little bit about Blade, which is something that's near and dear to my heart because it is something that I did start.
Right.
My very
right.
first day at Horizon Hobby in 2004. I didn't have a lot on my docket yet, and they said, here's a room with some samples that we've received over the years. And at that time, I had been very heavily into electric helicopters.
Okay.
Which at that point in time, they were still relatively niche. They weren't very common, but I had done everything from electric small indoor stuff to even I had some large, at the time, 600 size / 50 size machines, a Mikado logo. I had a Thunder Tiger Raptor that I had converted to electric, and I flew these with lipos.
Sweet.
But really what was most dear to my heart were micro helicopters. And at the time, there were a few out there. Some people may remember the Icarus Piccolo, the MS Hornet, and I had a couple of these that I had spent thousands of dollars on, which is insane. A helicopter this size that I had thousands of dollars in brushless motor, aluminum upgrade parts, carbon fiber upgrade parts. And that's because back then it was so unique, it was so niche.
It was revolutionary at that point.
It
wasn't
really
it?
was, but people weren't that interested yet.
Gotcha.
I don't think they had realized the potential, in large part because lipos still weren't mainstream. We were still sometimes flying nickel metal hydride batteries, so the performance
Wow.
wasn't phenomenal. But it was pretty awesome to see that on the outside of Horizon, and then when I got to Horizon, they had a room of samples, and in there were what essentially became the very first Blade helicopters. And they were helicopters that factories had been trying to get working, but they couldn't quite get working on their own. And so I was able to take pieces and parts from a couple different samples and put together the original Blade CP. Not exactly, but enough of it to get to what became the original Blade CP, which we then released in 2005. So we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of Blade.
Wow,
which is pretty cool.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, but back then it wasn't Blade as a brand itself. It was actually E-Flight Blade helicopters. So at the time, Horizon Hobby had E-Flight as a brand, Hangar 9 as a brand. We didn't have a ton of brands. We actually had Revolution helicopter brand at the time, which was one nitro helicopter that had been discontinued, and then a bunch of tools and accessories for helicopters. But the market wasn't very big in their experience for helicopters, so they were kind of surprised when I had this idea that we're going to create this E-Flight Blade electric helicopter, going to be completely ready to fly for $200. And the market had never seen anything like that.
Wow. So at the time, Blade wasn't the brand. Blade was the name.
The series name.
The
Essentially,
series
yeah.
name.
It's essentially, or the line of helicopters.
That's crazy.
So
That's crazy
it was
to think
E-Flight
about.
Blade. Everything was E-Flight Blade. And so back then, it was the E-Flight Blade CP because the name was Blade. It was the CP helicopter. Then we had the Blade CX.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever saw that. It might have been way before your time.
Maybe if I saw
Coaxial
it.
blades, the
Okay.
yellow body. Yeah, before your time. You'll have to look that one up. It's that we
I'll
sold a
have to check that
gazillion
out.
of those. And what I learned is we released the Blade CP originally, which is it was roughly about the size of this 230. In fact, this aircraft is derived from that. Some parts of this are very much the exact same. Like this swash plate is almost the exact same dimensions as the original was. So that heritage is in a model like this. So that helicopter is about this size, and it was collective pitch. We did not have back then flybarless stabilization. We had flybars. So the flybar helped mechanically stabilize the helicopter to some degree. We had one gyro on the tail, and that was it. And back then, the gyros were okay, but not great. And we didn't have SAFE. We didn't have AS3X. So you had to fly the helicopter, and it was quite a learning curve. So the vast majority of people that bought that original Blade CP could not fly it.
Gotcha.
And so we brought that out, I want to say it was like May of 2005, and so many people were buying them. Like, it was unbelievable. We could not believe how many we sold in such a short amount of time. And it's because it was a small electric helicopter. You could fly it in your house maybe, but at least in your front yard. It was under $200, ready to go, and it just took the market by storm. But too much so, because so many people bought it, couldn't fly it, they got frustrated. So we rushed the Blade CX to market. I'd already been working on it for a couple months at that point, but we brought it out by that Christmas because we wanted to make sure that everyone could get that as their first helicopter, at least get the basic skills.
A more enjoyable experience.
A more enjoyable experience, because if you don't succeed early on in trying
It's frustrating.
RC,
I get it.
You get frustrated.
I was there.
You give up. Yeah. So now we have great tools. We have SAFE. We have simulators, which back then we had simulators too, but not everybody was buying them because they took a high-end computer, the sim is expensive, so on and so forth. But that Blade CX changed everything. So the Blade CX was a coaxial helicopter. That's what the CX stood for.
Nice.
And so that coaxial helicopter was almost, it flew itself. As long as you gave it throttle, it was fixed pitch. You just got it up into a hover. You just kind of let go. It pretty much stayed level on its own.
Nice.
It was very easy to fly. We sold a gazillion of those. Then the next year we came out with the Blade CP Pro. Then we came out with the Blade CX2, which was the first ready-to-fly helicopter, ready to fly anything that had spectrum.
Gotcha.
That was actually our first ready-to-fly that had a LiPo, because the original Blade helicopters, we were afraid of LiPos. We didn't sell them that way. It was originally a nickel metal hydride, and then we had an upgrade pack to put a LiPo in it. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
But the reason I wanted to bring that up is I wanted to talk about the history of Blade, because it relates to what we're doing today and where we see Blade going in the future. And so Blade was my baby for 5 years that I worked at Horizon in that time frame, 2004, 2009. I did move back home. Home for me is Las Vegas. To be near family, and so I wasn't working at Horizon at the time, but there were a couple of guys that had worked with me for a few years that I left it in their capable hands, and we had a lot of really cool products come out that were already kind of in the works when I was there. The MCX, which if you don't know the CX helicopters, you may not know that one. Little micro CX.
I think so. I think I kind of remember it.
Okay, that one. Unbelievable, because anybody could fly that one, and it was so light. If you crashed it, it didn't break. That was truly revolutionary. And then we had the original, like very, very small collective pitch helicopters, and then that really just we were so ahead of the curve on a lot of those things at the time that Blade became one of the best known and biggest helicopter brands in the world. And it later became a brand because it got so big that we pulled it out of E-Flight, made it its own standalone brand, so we could focus efforts a little bit differently. Because the helicopter market and the airplane market have overlap, but they're mostly different customers, generally speaking.
I would say so.
Yeah. So that's how Blade became its own brand. And in the years past, we haven't actually named our helicopters like we probably should have. Like, this is the Blade 230S, but it's really just the 230S. It doesn't have a name per se, because the brand name is Blade. But most people know, hey, it's the Blade 230, or they just call it the 230. We are going to change that because I like having the names. Like, we've got the Fusion series now, Blade Fusion series. We've got the Blade Eclipse now, 360. We've got the Infusion series, and we're going to talk a little bit about those here in a minute. But yeah, it's been, wow, I cannot believe it's been 20 years. It makes me feel really old. It really does. I was very fortunate to start pretty young, not only flying RC, but then even when I worked at Horizon. And the last few years I've been back at Horizon since 2016. I've focused my efforts on the airplane side of things. So E-Flight, which is also my baby, because when I got to Horizon, there weren't very many E-Flight products, and we really built that brand up very quickly with brushless motors, ESCs, LiPos, planes. We did some of the first foam RTF, bind and flies. Unbelievable. And then we had a lot of wood airplanes back then, which are still near and dear to my heart. We're going to do more wood airplanes here in the future. Yeah. But generally speaking, Blade is that was where I spent all my time and effort that first time around. So the second time around, I'm still a helicopter guy, and I've always been both an airplane and a helicopter guy. But I definitely lean more towards airplanes the last few years because it's been so much fun. With EDFs coming on so strong, Warbirds coming on so strong, giant scale foamies becoming relatively practical. But that said, I'm excited to be back working on Blade again.
It's cool to have you back. It's cool to have you back.
Only been about a year that I've kind of been back in working on the brand, but I see so much potential because not only in what I like to call the pod and boom flippy floppies, the 3D helicopters, which that's what this event is about. I mean, I'm watching guys that are just unbelievable pilots flying 700 machines and ultra micro machines.
A lot of talent out here.
A lot of talent. But what I think is kind of missing right now is there's a lot of airplane guys, myself included, who I enjoy flying 3D helicopters. Yeah. I'm okay at 3D, but I much prefer something that's got a body. Okay. A full fuselage like this, which this was already in the works before I got to the Blade team. But I was excited to see it because I was like, hey, this looks more like a scale helicopter. So, maybe you guys can leave some comments in the chat. Would you like to see more helicopters with full fuselages rather than pod and boom? Would you like to see more scale helicopters in the Blade lineup? My feeling is I think we should definitely do it.
I think so too.
Yeah, and I think if we had some of the more popular scale subject matters, we'd do very well. But generally speaking, this, by the way, the Eclipse 360, which is just a recent release for us, has done very well.
Yeah, and honestly, even as somebody who enjoys 3D, I've really been enjoying the Eclipse.
Yeah, you can 3D that to a degree.
Oh yeah, for sure. It'll Puro flip. You can do TikToks if you want. And honestly, for a helicopter that size, I'll be honest, I was skeptical about the tail motor, but it's very impressive for a helicopter that size.
Yeah, and the one nice thing about the tail motor, instead of having a belt drive or a shaft drive for the tail, scale is it's easier to put bodies, scale bodies on, especially if the motor is up high, the tail rotor is up high, depending on the subject matter, so on and so forth. But I'm very excited about what we can do with potentially scale helicopters, bring the airplane guys over again, and that's what Blade originally did. It wasn't like everybody bought an RC helicopter because that's all they ever wanted. It was a lot of airplane guys who wanted to try helicopters, but they were too expensive, too complicated, too whatever it might have been, and then Blade changed that. And so almost everybody that I knew that flew airplanes definitely tried at least a Blade helicopter or two. But I want to bring those times back. I really think the way to do that is going to be scale helicopters and full fuselages and so on and so forth. But the other reason that we wanted to start the video with this section of our booth here is to show our kind of lineup, all the way from the little Nano CP there, the old 120S, now the new Infusion 120 180, the Fusion 180, the 150 230, 330, now the Eclipse 360. One of the things that we've seen, and trust us guys, we see your comments, some of them are not so nice, which we don't love, but we understand why you say them, that we don't support our products long term, which is a bit ironic because yes, there are some aircraft, whether it's airplanes in E-Flight, an airplane in Hangar 9, a helicopter in Blade, they don't sell so great, and so yeah, after a year or two, we discontinue them and we move on and spend our time and effort on new products, something that might sell better, something that the market might like better. Now, admittedly, sometimes that happened too quickly.
Right.
Sometimes it was like a year, and that felt like, or 2 years even. Doesn't feel like very long to a lot of people. And in the case of a helicopter, you can have a helicopter that's 10 years old, and if you can still get parts for it, you can fix it if you crash it, and it just flies like it did 10 years ago.
Yep.
So we understand that helicopters, just like RC cars, real airplanes, real helicopters, it's very different than a foamy airplane. Foam airplanes, for a lot of guys, are disposable. They don't often keep those for 10 years, but that said, as Horizon Hobby as a whole now, we've shifted our mindset. We've basically got some new people that are looking at things differently, and they understand, just like we report all the time what you guys say, what we feel, because myself, I'm a hobbyist, you're a hobbyist.
For sure.
You have attachment to things, and you want to be able to repair them for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, whatever it might be. And we maybe can't support every product with parts for 10 years, but if something sells well, we'll definitely continue selling it. You know, this 230's been around for a decade.
Yeah. Oh my
So
gosh.
to say that we don't keep our models for a long time and don't support them for a long time is not necessarily true across the board.
And not to mention too, we like to update and upgrade, you know, whenever we can.
Yeah, and this is a great example.
Yeah.
This was, this has been a couple different helicopters over its time. It was the SR, the Blade SR, then it became now the 230. There's the 230S, the 230 V2, or the 230 Smart, which this is. So it's the same helicopter. We didn't really change most of the components. So the vast majority of the parts are the same. And so that means if you bought one of these 10 years ago, you can still get parts for it.
Right.
But we did change some of the components. For example, now we've got smart technology in our ESC or our flight controller, so on and so forth. So yes, we do update and upgrade things because you can't necessarily, in the world of technology today, have a product that uses electronic stabilization or servos or whatever it might be and just have it the same way for 10 years.
Yep.
The market's going to pass you by. People aren't going to buy it. They're going to want the new features, and if you don't have them, they're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So
right.
We don't always do that, but a product like this is a great platform, and I'll use this example a lot because a lot of people have learned to fly on this helicopter.
For sure.
It's a great first helicopter. You can 3D the heck out of it.
Oh yeah. Honestly, too, learning 3D with that helicopter is great because I like to describe it as taking the physics speed on real flight and turning it down a little bit. It's like the real life. And again, I think we've talked about this last year. It's like the Aero Scout of helicopters.
Yeah, for those that know the Aero Scout airplane, which is one of my favorite airplanes, great
Same
trainer,
here.
but also just a fun to fly airplane. This is exactly that. You can learn to fly helicopters on this. If you want to get into collective pitch helicopters especially, I'd go here. You can go with a little Nano down there, but it's so small, it's kind of skittish. You really can't fly it in the wind. You can fly it in your house, but it's not the best place to fly it. So this is a great size because you can actually fly it outside in some wind. You could hover this around in the garage, which I've done that before. But yeah, this is a great helicopter to start with. And so, over the years, we've tried our best to cover all of our bases, from ultra micro to kind of the micro size, the mini size. Now this 330 here, this uses a 3-cell 2200. This was pretty common.
Yeah.
Nowadays, these are a little less common. And by the way, guys, the names of our helicopters, often the number is the length of the blade. Not always. Over the last couple of years, we got a little off track on that. So, for example, this is the Eclipse 360, but it actually has 350 millimeter blades.
Right. Same thing with the Fusion 360.
Yeah, same thing
there.
with that.
Yeah.
We'll be fixing that from here on out. For example, Fusion 700 has 700 millimeter blades. It could also probably spin 690s or 710s, but it does actually have 700, just like the Fusion 550 has 550 blades.
Right.
So we're going to talk about those here in a moment because that's really, a big part of why we're at the event and a big part of the future of Blade. But again, wanted to cover that. We do hear you guys. We know that long-term product availability and parts support, parts availability are very important to you. Parts affordability. With the Fusion 700, and we actually repriced some of the Fusion 550 parts now because we saw that, that other competitors had parts that were similar for less. And we want it to obviously be competitive. We don't want to be too expensive for the helicopter, for the parts, all these things. We see your feedback, we listen to it, but always just be kind in your comments. You guys don't always have to be mean or give us a hard time. We mean well, we truly do. Sometimes there's things out of our control. Sometimes there's things that we wish we could change, but we can't always. Generally speaking, though, we all we care about is genuinely people having a good time with our products.
For sure.
That's not the only thing we care about, but that's a big part of what we do. We're here to help people have fun with hobbies.
Yeah, especially the people that are being introduced into, the helicopter lineup. Like, we'll talk about it later, but the Fusion 550 or even the new Fusion 700, somebody who might be skeptical, it's their first kit. Like, I get it. I was nervous. Yeah. I know I did not build my first helicopter kit the right way. Yes. It was nerve-wracking because it's a big helicopter. You want to make sure you do it right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and that's one of the reasons we've got all these helicopters. And we're going to be, over the next couple of years, we're going to be revamping a lot of these helicopters. We're going to, update them, give them the more what I like to call family look, like we gave the Fusion series. For those that remember the early Blade helicopters, they all looked very similar. It was very important to me that when I lined all my helicopters up, that they all had the same shape of canopy and maybe different colors and things, but they all looked related. Right now, we look a little disjointed. We're going to clean that up, fix that a little bit, but we want to have everything from an ultra micro helicopter, for example, even smaller and less expensive than that NAMA, $100, let's say, to get you into the hobby, all the way up to a 700. We would love for a person to start with wherever they want to go, tiny, mid-size, a little bit bigger, and be able to progress all the way to a 700 in the Blade brand.
Exactly.
That's always been important to us. That was always my goal when I started Blade. And we got there. We had 700 helicopters at one point, and we know that that's a little bit of a sore point for people because it wasn't around for very long. But this, guys, remember, that was like 10 years ago. A lot has changed in the market and in our business since then. Again, we've got new people kind of running things, not only in the brand, but also, in our purchasing departments and things like that are looking at things differently. They understand the importance, the value of keeping the product for as long as possible, supporting with the parts for as long as possible, having those parts in stock. That's important.
Yep.
Not just having them, on the website you can back order, but having it in stock. So when you need it, you can get it. That's something we've been working on. It's been difficult since the pandemic, really. It's gotten more complicated to order things and keep things kind of in stock. Yes. Everybody's timelines have gotten longer. Your lead times have gotten longer. Shipping takes longer. Everything's gotten more expensive. But we're doing the best that we absolutely can to make sure that we have as many parts as possible in stock at all times. So, again, we're doing better. We're not perfect.
Sure.
We're never perfect, and we know that, guys. We totally understand that. So, we're gonna. I think we can probably move on to the Fusions because I think that's what a lot of people are here to talk about.
This is definitely my favorite series for sure.
Yeah. So we'll put these guys down. We'll bring over the big dogs. A lot of good helicopters, though. So many. It's fun to see how many helicopters we do have.
It's fun. It's a big family, and I like it.
Yeah.
There's a helicopter out there for everybody, essentially.
Right.
David says a scale option for the 550 and 700.
Oh, you want big ones? Okay.
Big scale
I like big scale.
Hey,
I would say the thing about scale, though, of course, just like airplanes, not everybody can afford giant scale. Not everybody can afford even a mid-size, and so that's why I'd love to see many different sizes and classes. I think that's going to be very, very important.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah. But these guys, and again, so one of my favorite aspects of now where the Fusion line has gotten to is that we've got this family look. They've got matching canopies, not only in trim scheme and shape. They come out of the box this way. I really love that about them. And we'll pull over here. We've got some optional canopies now.
Yes,
we've got orange versions of canopies. So if you don't like the red, white, and blue, that's okay. We've got the orange ones too. It does come with the red, white, and blue out of the box, but we do have the orange ones available separately. They're going to have black landing gear, black tail fins for the guys that kind of prefer that look, because some people, they like to customize, personalize. That's totally understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a good example.
There it is.
Here's a
and
550,
that's in the 550. Yeah.
With the orange canopy. So we originally did this version for the 700. We are now going to release it and introduce it for the 550. And also now for the 360. So you can go with all orange ones if you want, or you can have a mix and match, however you prefer to have it. it's going to be really cool we get that to that
Let
point.
us know, too, if you'd like to see the black skids and also the unpainted tail fin, too, for the 550 and 360.
Yes. I think it's nice to have the ability to personalize. It's nice to have matching, but, everybody's got their different style, their different kind of preferences. But the reason we wanted to talk about the Fusion series is obviously brand new, all new Fusion 700. This is a big deal. But before we get here, I want to talk about the 360, which is, I think, one of the best blade helicopters there's ever been.
I'll be honest, I'm right there with you.
And I don't think everybody realizes just how good that thing is out of the box. It is bind and fly, so it's already pre-built. It's got a fly-by-wire control unit in it. You literally bind it to your Spectrum transmitter and go fly it. I bought one last year. I brought it out here, and I flew it, and I was blown away. I mean, I've flown a lot of helicopters over the years. I've flown a lot of ready-to-flies, and that thing, I was so enamored with it right out of the box. It was smooth. It had tons of power. I could 3D it very comfortably. It was very locked in. Safe works great.
Right.
So if I got in trouble, I bailed out, and it was right there.
Nice.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Now, you could start with this, but I probably wouldn't. What we consider the Fusion series is kind of our high-end series.
For sure.
You start with the 230, the 330. Those helicopters are a little bit more simple, a little bit more plastic, a little bit less expensive, a little bit lighter weight. It's really nice, though, to then go from those to this class of model. And these Fusion series helicopters are really what we consider the best fusion of the high-end components, the all-metal, the carbon fiber, the high-performance power systems, but also they're durable, they're reliable. Now, when you crash, you break. Everything breaks, pretty much. But these helicopters were designed to be robust, so they don't break everything. Like, breaking a frame in a crash is so unfortunate because it's a lot of work to replace it. These guys don't have that problem.
No, not at all. And I'll refer back to, I think it was Battle of the Brands 2020, but I put in a 480 stretch, which is basically the 550. Put it in hard. Did not break the frame. I was about to say, just blades. I don't even think the blade
Bent the
grips
shaft,
broke.
probably.
Bent the shaft.
Yeah.
Actually, I
These
bent
things
the
happen.
shaft a little bit, but still, again, the frame was totally fine.
Well, and that's the nice thing about, again, the Fusion series is they're all metal components, and that's one benefit of metal, is that you don't have to worry as much about damaging those in a crash. So the 360, we actually came out with this in 2019.
Yes.
So this is another good example of how long we've had this model and supported it.
Yep.
So again, we can prove that we do keep our models around, we do support them. So I know some people forget that, but again, this has been out since 2019. It's had a couple updates, a couple tweaks here and there. It was originally a 6S helicopter.
Originally it was, and I believe that motor is still available. So if you want, you can do 3-cell, or if you want to, you can take the 3-cell setup that you see here. I believe all you have to do is drop the tooth count in the pinion, and you can run 4-cell.
Yeah, that's what I love about this helicopter. So you can fly it on 3S 2200 stock.
Yep.
Change the pinion and fly it on 4S 2200. You have the 6S option, which I've flown it. It's insane, but it's way more than I need. Like, even the 3S is fantastic.
Honestly, I think the 3S is my favorite because it's so floaty. It's light.
Floaty, yeah. 3-cell 2200. We all have a bunch of those.
It truly feels like a bigger helicopter.
What I like about it, it feels like a bigger helicopter, and it comes out of the box ready to go.
Yep.
It's not, you don't have to build it. Now, going out from this, as you kind of work your way into larger helicopters, the Fusion 550, now, real quick, this is essentially the Fusion 480.
Yes.
So what happened is we came out with the Fusion 480 in 2018, which you can still get parts for it. Yes, I know some will say, well, you don't sell the Fusion 480 anymore. We don't, because we have the 550 now. Almost everybody that bought a 480, once we came out with the stretch kit for it, bought the stretch kit too.
I want to say whenever I got mine, I didn't even touch the 480 boom.
Okay.
Immediately stretched it.
And a lot of people did that. We saw this in the order history. We'd see a person order the 480 kit and the stretch kit at the same time, which told us that really what people wanted was the 550. So the reason we don't sell the 480 now is just because the 550 is the same helicopter with the stretch kit already. Plus a couple other tweaks that we did, a better motor, and actually we sell it for a similar price to the 480, so there's no reason to have both of them in the lineup. That said, I think there are some guys that might like us to bring back the 480 because it is a little smaller. It does fly on smaller 6S batteries, like a 3200 or 4000.
Right.
You could fly it on a 5000. It might have been a little nose heavy. But that is an option that we may consider bringing back the 480. Maybe as a bind and fly. I think it would be pretty cool.
No, I think it would be
like
cool.
Like this, and you could buy, this, take it out of the box and fly it, and you could take a 480 out of the box and fly it. That would be cool.
And that being said, going back to, airplane guys getting into helicopters, I know several people, 60-inch 3D airplanes, 6S 4000 is a common battery there.
Yep. Yeah, and the 480 would be perfect for that.
Yes.
Now, this 550 uses the very common 6S 5000, which a lot of guys have for their 80mm, 90mm EDFs. Their other sport airplanes, their Carbon Z airplanes, those are very, very common and popular batteries too. And that's why this is doing so well, because a lot of guys have those batteries and that's what they're looking for. And so this is what we call a quick build kit.
Yes.
And so it's partly pre-assembled.
Yeah.
So not all of it's assembled.
Not all of it. And I'll argue that this is the easiest building kit out
for
there.
a kit in general.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And that's why
I
it's
mean,
perfect for your, step up into the kit world.
Yeah, for sure. Again, like the whole head, the main head, also the tail rotor
section.
is pre-installed with Loctite. Again, I recommend just going in, checking, making sure.
Right.
But, you can tell very quickly that it is installed with Loctite. The parts are serviceable. So, after 150, 200 flights or so, just check and make sure everything's good. But that being said, whenever you take the head apart or the tail rotor that, the thing is, since it's already pre-installed with Loctite, it shows you the correct way. It's already correctly assembled. So whenever you take it apart,
you learn a lot taking it apart.
You learn a lot taking it apart.
Yeah, so again, if you're looking to move up in the world to kits, to higher performance, larger scale helicopters, this is a great entry point for that. We do sell just the kit with the blades and the motor. It's a good value, but the best value is the Super Combo.
Definitely.
Which comes with the brushless servos, it comes with the flybarless control unit, it comes with a nice ESC, and then all of that together saves you many hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say the stock settings on the 6250, now 6350, they're very close. The stock numbers in there are very close to what the Fusion 550 and the 700 like. In the manual on the 700, we say what to start out with. And those, again, it may vary differing on like where you are, depending on your altitude, humidity, that kind of thing.
Preference.
Yeah, personal preference, that too. But that being said, start out with the stock numbers. You will be impressed.
And these are, again, the settings for the flybarless control unit. Unlike airplanes, when we saw them bind and fly, or in this case, the 360, we already tuned it for you. But with the helicopters like these, where you can supply your own flybarless control unit, we do include our control units in the combos, but we give you the settings to put in to make it fly what most people would prefer, maybe, or appreciate out of the box. But you can fine-tune that. That's a skill you have to learn over time.
For sure.
You may want to have the help of a friend. But what's awesome about our latest, in smart technology, our news transmitters, they all have forward programming. So now you can do it in the radio. You don't have to plug it into a computer anymore. It's so nice. So that's a really nice touch. This is a great helicopter in a lot of ways. It's done very, very well for us. And it gave us the excitement and the inspiration to go to the big dog. So let's move over. We're going to talk about that. I'd say the elephant in the room, but that's usually not a good thing. This is a good thing.
Right.
So I know some years ago, again, it's almost 10 years now that we had the 700X, and I get it, guys. That wasn't around for very long, and people didn't think we're that serious about helicopters because we didn't keep it around that long, and we haven't had anything like this since then. But that said, this is something that we've all wanted to have in our lineup for a number of years now. And what's exciting about it is it's an all-new design. Now, in the world of helicopters, there are different trends, and this helicopter is a combination of trends, it's a combination of personal preference, and different guys worked on the design of this that had different types of input. There's the option to have the canopy that's almost not there and a battery that can slide in without removing the canopy. I didn't personally like the looks of that. Some guys don't like the looks of that. Some guys do like the looks of that.
For sure.
But we tried our best to give it the family Fusion look. That was important.
Yep.
And then we also wanted it to be a very robust, very simple airframe. We did things like 15 millimeter main shaft.
Yeah.
Like, it's beefy. Have you bent one yet?
No,
Even in a crash, you haven't bent one yet.
Not yet.
Oh, that's impressive.
50 millimeter in general, it's huge.
Yeah, it's a huge, bigger than it needs to be shaft, and that's okay. Same thing with the spindle. We've got an ovalized boom, so it's not just a round boom. It's actually got, it's an oval shape. That's really cool. It does have the battery tray, which is kind of easy to get in and out. We do have grommets on the canopy. I know that's a point of contention for some people, but you know what, guys, it works fine.
Again, the main goal with this one, I would say, is modern simplicity.
Yeah,
it works.
That's a good way to put it.
It's built great.
That's a great way to put it.
Is the best way to explain it.
Yep, and so, this has a lot of the modern day expected features. For example, Delrin main gear. You've got, again, the battery tray is very important. The ability to have a very large ESC, in this case, is the 200 amp we're showing here. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yep.
But what we wanted to do with this helicopter was sell it as a kit, like we do with the 550, that comes with the blades, the main blades, the tail blades, and the motor.
Yep.
At a better price than a lot of the competitors. So you can actually save some money there. But then also, really, the better deal is the Super Combo.
Yes.
The Super Combo, just like the 550, comes with the brushless Spectrum servos. It comes with the flybarless control unit, in this case the 6350. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And then it also comes with your choice of either a 120 amp ESC or this big bad mama 200 amp ESC, which is $200 more. So the combo with the 200 amp is, again, $200 more for the 200 amp. Not really, but that's what it works out to. This is overkill, right, for the vast majority of people.
Definitely. I was about to say that motor up here is very efficient.
Yes. So the 120 is fine, guys. if you're not the most aggressive 3D pilot in the world, the 120 is all you need, and it saves you $200. So you go with that combo. That's what I bought for myself. So I'm going to be perfectly happy with that, and I can semi 3D, but not 3D super hard. And I know you've flown the 120 in the past. And it's been fine.
No, it's fine.
So that's good to know.
It's a very efficient helicopter. I could personally run the 120 and not have an issue.
You could, okay. So the 200, though, it gives you no worries at all. Hot day, batteries back to back, flying as hard as you can. We wanted to have that option available because that's kind of a modern day expectation. And so that combo is available. So we got the kit with the motor and the blades, the super combo with the 120 amp ESC, and then the high power super combo.
Yeah.
And that has, again, the bigger ESC. That's the only difference. You know, we were originally like, do we do different motors to give different? We ended up just going with the Big Bad Mama motor right from the get-go. The motor works fantastic. I think
great.
people have been very impressed.
I love it, honestly. Like, I would stick it on any 700 helicopter out there.
And we do sell it separately for guys that might want to do that for exactly that reason. And I think we're very excited about the way the whole package has come together. One benefit of the super combos is that you do get the Spectrum, in this case 6350, which is an updated and upgraded version of the 6250 we've sold for many years. So the 6250 has been around quite a few years now.
A while.
And it's gone through many different firmware updates, and we had a very substantial one just the last year, and not a lot of people realize that. Yeah. So some people flew the 6250 before and didn't necessarily love it. And there's a lot of, preference in the way certain flybarless units feel or can be programmed. So we had, again, pretty substantial change last year. A lot more people like that.
Definitely.
So the 6250 comes with that firmware now. This 6350 comes with that same firmware. They're basically the same. They have the same firmware, mostly the same hardware. The difference on the 6350 is it does have a metal case, all metal case. It looks cool.
Yeah.
No,
for sure.
I mean,
I
love
the
the way it looks. It matches the rest of the helicopter.
It does.
It's black anodized with the, with the silver edges. It looks sharp. The all-metal case also does dampen a bit better. It does work a little better for higher vibration environments or higher performance environment like this. So that is available separately. We're going to continue to sell the 6250. We're going to lower the price. This 6350 is now going to be the same price as the 6250 at $199. So if you want to put that in other helicopters, that's a great deal for a flybarless controller. And then the 6250 is going to go down about $30. So that's still an option for if you have a lighter weight helicopter, smaller helicopter, the 6250 is great.
Right.
You might as well go with the plastic case. It's a little bit less expensive, a little bit lighter. But overall, this helicopter, everybody that's seen it is kind of surprised.
Yeah.
I don't think people thought we were going to ever do it again.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It was fun, too, because it was hard because I was able to help with the testing on this helicopter a lot, and it was hard for me to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, you were excited.
Because I was very excited for it.
Because for the last couple of years, Ethan's been on Team Horizon, even before you became an employee not too long ago. But he couldn't fly a Horizon 700 helicopter, couldn't fly a Blade 700 helicopter because there wasn't one. So I know you've been flying a T-Rex for many years.
Yeah, been rocking the T-Rex. Still love that helicopter.
I know, Lion is a great helicopter.
And again, I was inspired by the modern simplicity. That's what I like. Personally, that's what I like in a helicopter.
Gotcha. And that's why I think you like this design. You helped influence a lot of things on this. So we really appreciate all your help flying it.
No problem.
For those that haven't seen, you got to watch Ethan's videos on flying it. This guy can fly anything, but you make sure that it doesn't come apart. I mean, we need to know, can it be flown hard enough to break?
Yep.
And you flew it as hard as you can, and it didn't break. And that, if you can do that, the rest of us are going to be just fine. Also, be sure to check out Ethan's build videos. He's got videos that on the 550 walk you through the entire build assembly process, setup process. And then also do the same thing with the 700.
Yes.
We appreciate that. Because for a guy who's just building his first kit, he's going to want those little hints and tips along the way, like where should I route my wires, what should I do, how much Loctite, these kinds of things. You cover a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely. I cover all that. I also cover up the flybarless system setup as well. So going through that, and also the AVN ESC settings. So basically getting the helicopter out of the box all the way up to your first flight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the same thing with the Blade Fusion 700.
And that's
I'm excited
very, very, very helpful for a lot of reasons. Even if you're an experienced guy, you can still learn something. Build it while you're watching the video. Yeah, you might pick up a little hint and tip from you along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And again, just like the quick build kit, this is all assembled with Loctite the correct way. So again,
that's right.
You learn something whenever you take it apart. You understand how it goes back together the correct way.
Yeah, so out of curiosity, what would you say a person should expect time-wise to assemble this model from kit to flying?
Man, okay, so somebody who has never done it before, I would say, personally, if it were me and you've never done it before, don't stress yourself out over it. Take a couple days. Yeah,
couple days.
For sure. In the videos, I separate it into four parts. I do the mainframe, I do the main rotor head, and then also the tail section. So again, that's 3 nights, and then the 4th night, just install the electronics.
There you go.
Again, you can easily have it within 5 nights set up, ready to go.
I think an experienced pilot could have it ready to fly in maybe 5 hours.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
maybe less experienced guys, 7, 10 hours, 15 hours. Take your time, no rush. But in the end, you're going to end up with a machine that's very, very reliable. This is the kind of helicopter that if you don't crash it, you probably won't have to do anything.
Yeah,
for hundreds of flights, maybe years. It's that, and really all of our platforms are essentially that now.
Oh yeah.
If you crash, all bets are off because obviously, you may damage something, have to repair it, replace it, tweak something. But if you don't crash, a product like this is designed to be reliable.
For sure.
Lasts a long time.
It's built, works, and
Yep.
it's very reliable.
Yeah, it's so cool to have it. I'm so excited. Let's see, do we have any questions in the chat?
Looks like Bill says, will the 700 have a black main gear to match the rest of the model?
Actually, if one of these guys can grab the 700 with all the option parts, we're going to talk about what you can get right now for option parts for the 700. And he was asking about the black gear?
Yeah, the main gear.
Oh, black main gear.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I never thought about that. That is something that the person that's responsible for the Fusion 700 development is sitting off camera here, and I think it's got him thinking. It would be cool, and I'll tell you why, because when you look at this helicopter with all the orange and the black on it, it would black it out a little bit more, which would be really, really cool. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe Gary put his helicopter away. Oh, no, it's over there.
Is it over there somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to grab it real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I do want to talk about some of the other options, the things that we did that not every company has done for 700 class helicopters.
Yes.
So there's a lot of preferences in how you fly, what type of power system that you choose to go with. So you see this one has all of our readily available option parts on it. So it's got the black landing gear, the black tail fin versus the red, white, and blue painted, and then the orange canopy. Under the hood, though, what you can't see is that this is set up for what we call low head speed flying. So normally with the 700 machine, do you know what RPM you're at?
I want to say I'm at about 2,000.
2,000?
Yeah.
So 700 millimeter blades spinning 2,000 RPM it's a lot of power. It's a lot of pep. It's pretty intimidating and can be scary to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. So what we did is we worked with Gary Wright, who's been a helicopter pilot for a very long time, and he loves flying with lower head speeds. So he actually went and developed a lower KV motor. It's a little bit smaller overall because it can be, since it's not pulling quite as much power. We've got different tail pulleys, which changes the ratio at the tail, because now when you're spinning the main blades at, let's say, in this case, roughly 1,200 RPM. Now the tail blades aren't spinning as fast.
Exactly.
So he corrected me, 1180. 1180 is a very specific number for him.
Yeah.
And then it changes the gear ratio on the tail, and we also went to longer tail blades to make sure the tail still worked well at the lower head speed. And I'll tell you, for me, I'm going to have 2 of them. I'm going to do one of each, because I don't hardcore 3D. I don't fly like you do. I can't do that. And I think the low head speed setup is probably going to be better for me.
It's fun. And I will say, so there was a while where I did do low head speed, and it teaches you it teaches you to be precise with the collective.
Yeah.
Pitch management is very important.
Yeah, power management.
And it's good. It teaches you a lot. I definitely recommend anybody.
It does.
Try it out for
longer flight times.
That too.
That's another benefit.
That too.
So
I think Gary was getting about 11 minutes on this.
Yeah. So that's almost more than double. Probably what you were getting, right?
Oh yeah.
On the same batteries.
Yeah, I get about 3.5 minutes.
Oh, speaking of batteries, let's grab the stick pack here.
Yeah.
So the other helicopter that I had, and I can pull the battery out real quick. On that one, that actually has the 2 6S 5000 batteries, which are on the single tray. They're 2 separate batteries, but we do now have, we recently released this the same day as the Fusion 700. It's essentially a stick pack. It's not a 12S battery. It's 2 6S batteries in a single shrink tubing. It still has separate leads, so you can charge it on a 6-cell charger, 6-cell charger. And then when you connect it on the helicopter, you can see it series it here at the ESC. So we do have this stick pack available. The nice thing about this is just a little less work.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have 2 batteries strapped on the tray. You've got the one. Now, the downside for an airplane guy like me who has a bunch of 6S 5000s is I'm not going to be able to put these in my airplanes. So I'll probably stick with the 6S 5000s, and that's great. You can fly 4000s.
Yeah.
You can fly probably 3200s, especially if you had a low head speed setup. I don't know if it would CG with those, maybe not. But
well, that's one thing that I will point out too that's really cool, especially with the ESC tray right here. So since Gary's running the 120, he's got a little bit less weight up front. However, this ESC tray also kind of doubles as a secondary flybarless system tray.
Oh, I see.
So he kind of
has
transfers the weight up here. So there's multiple ways to wire the helicopter.
Got it. So that's the nice thing about this helicopter. We did want to do things a little different, not just another 700. We have the performance on the high end, so someone like Ethan can fly it as hard as he wants with high head speed. We also have these options available for those that prefer low head speed. And so we really did want to have a platform that could appeal to a wider potential range of flying styles, preferences. Again, I'm going to try both. I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy the lower head speed ultimately.
I think so too. And I will say, for those of you who do get the high power super combo like me, it still flies great low head speed. I've done a lot of testing low head speed, maybe not as quite as low as Gary's, but still, even the tail authority on low head speed on the high voltage super combo, it does pretty all right.
What RPM do you think you're running on that setup?
Oh man, I want to say probably around 1200, 1250, 1300.
Okay. Maybe again not as efficient because it's not
definitely
the
not,
lower
but
KV motor, and but I think it would definitely work. Something you can try without having to buy the different motor and the different pulleys, so on and so forth. But yeah, and I gotta say, I'm really this orange canopy's really growing on me. I'm very excited that we're gonna have this not only for the 700 but now for the 550, 360. Not sure on availability of those just yet, unless Brian knows off the top of his head.
They're set up.
They're set. We've put them up in our system, so we're gonna get them on order. But we know guys may prefer the orange setup and want to have 3 orange helicopters, so we're gonna get there. Gonna do that. But please leave some comments in the chat when you watch this video. Let us know if you want to see other colors of canopies, other styles of canopies. The scale body thing is very interesting for me. I mean, maybe this platform could be a good scale helicopter platform. One downside with the belt-driven tail or shaft-driven tail is that does limit the proportions of the types of body and where the tail can be relative to the head. But we could also potentially use this frame with a different tail setup and put it into a body. I'm not sure we're ready to jump into 700 size scale helicopters yet because they would not be inexpensive. But I certainly think if we get enough comments, we'll consider it on the smaller end to start. And you have somewhere to start and somewhere to finish. And again, I think it's really important to us to show you guys all of Blade. All the way from that little nano CP, which we missed it, but it's sitting down there. You can see how small we have, how big we have. And it's very important to us that, we want to have everything from helicopters that are perfect first-time pilots to a helicopter that can satisfy even the best pilots in the world.
Definitely.
And that's what Blade's always been about. We're not necessarily perfect. We have definitely not done everything exactly right along the way. But, bear with us. Give us some grace. Understand that, we are hobbyists too. This is our job, but our goal is to create products that you have a great experience with. And we want to make sure that you have a great experience with after-sales support. Recently we finally did get our phone lines back on. They're still staffing that up, so you will have some wait times. Usually do a callback now. One benefit of the callback is when you tell them what you're calling about, they try to get a person who knows that issue to call you back. That's helpful. We have chat, of course. We have email. Phone calls tend to be preferred for a lot of people, which we understand that. That's why we got the phone lines again. We had a system changeover about a year ago. We're still working our way through that. It was a very, very, very substantial undertaking to get rid of a bunch of old systems that were hobbled together to work together to now go to a singular system. We've had some hiccups along the way with shipping and availability and some issues because of that, but I'm really excited about the rest of this year, next year, not only for the Blade brand, but for Horizon Hobby in general. I mean, Spectrum, this year we had this new update recently where we expanded the features of the transmitters. Now you've got 20 channels in pretty much all of our transmitters.
It's great.
Fantastic.
I don't think I'll ever utilize all 20 channels, but it's nice.
Especially with a helicopter.
I have the capability. No, definitely not with the helicopter.
But, large scale airplanes, so on and so forth, it's great. So guys, we're listening to you. We see your feedback. Always just, try to be kind in your comments, considerate in your comments. We see a lot of negativity, and it's not fun for us because, yes, this is our job, but this is also our passion. We spend our weekends flying, our evenings flying. A lot of guys that we work with, we go out and fly together for fun because this is what we do. Yeah, this is our life. It's our passion. We know it's yours too. And so just, again, give us some grace, give us some understanding, and just know that we do see your comments. We do take them to heart. Sometimes we take them personally. I mean, we're human, right? So
for sure,
it's not always fun to see a person immediately, the day you announce something that, Brian's been working on this, you've been working on this, Gary's been working on this. So many guys have worked on this helicopter for a couple years now, and the first comments we see are, it'll be discontinued tomorrow. Guys, that's not fun. That's not nice. That's not even right. We just proved to you how many of our helicopters we've been selling for many, many years. Please keep that in mind. I know we might have made a mistake in the past. We're going to do better. We got different people managing it, different people involved in the brand, different thought process when it comes to that long-term availability and support. And we also know we have to prove it. And it's going to take us a while to prove it, so give us some time. We totally understand if you don't believe us right now, but I think we've got a track record to prove that, we're here because we continue to still try to improve, try to be better, try to do things right, try to do things that are better for the customer whenever we can. Any other questions?
Yes, this is a good question. Dan says, so why not sell the low head speed as a combo kit instead of optional parts?
Yes, admittedly, now, Gary's like, yes! And Brian's like,
Gary's
no!
giving a thumbs up.
Not necessarily no. No,
Again,
not no. Honestly,
kind of,
that low head speed came a little late in the game. You know, Gary was very, very passionate about that, and I'm really glad that he was, because we have the option available. If we see enough comments like that, we can do that, because it is a bummer to have to buy the combo with the motor you're not going to use and then spend $200 on the motor you really need.
Right.
So we definitely get that. We will look at that as an option. I won't promise anything. You know, if we sell one of these motors for every couple of helicopters for the low head speed setup, that's going to prove that there's a high demand for that.
And again, I will stress that, you know, on this exact setup, you can fly low head speed.
On the other
well.
side,
pretty well.
With the standard
I'm
setup,
sorry,
you could. You could try that to see how you like it, and if you are committed, you could always go this route.
Exactly.
And you could sell that stock motor even.
Yeah,
because that's a
definitely.
great motor for other 700 size helicopters. So that's a good question. Anything else?
Oh, he would also like to see a brushless Nano S3.
Oh, okay. This little guy, brushless.
Yeah,
huh?
with better frame and some beefed up canopy posts.
So now, here's one thing I will say. We would all like that. But one thing that's been a trend in the hobby for a long time is, as we all want more power, with that means beefier parts, heavier this, heavier that. So the little poor Nano here becomes a little porky Nano.
Yeah.
Not saying that's not a bad thing per se, but you know, a good example is the MCPX BL2. That's a great helicopter. But the market has gone to the now direct drive. They want that Infusion series helicopter like we have, and those helicopters, although they have some benefits and simplicity, they also weigh more. So the MCPX2 has a lighter disc loading than the Infusion 120, which uses the same battery.
Yep.
So these are considerations. I'm not saying we won't do it, but just keep that in mind, that we have to weigh those options out the best that we can. And so
I will say too, my living room walls would not appreciate a higher power Nano S3.
Yeah. So that's what's also nice about this, is it's so light and so not low power, but not that high energy. It doesn't do a lot of harm if you hit walls. Do you have the Infusions over there?
I do.
Yeah, let's talk about those really quick.
120
So
and the 180.
again, we have the Fusion series of helicopters, which are high-end, carbon fiber, metal, traditional geared motor drives. And then we've got now the Infusion series. And these are direct drive main motor. So the idea being that you don't have a gear reduction on the main rotors, which does simplify things. You've got a larger motor, you've got more torque. There's pluses and minuses, but generally speaking, we see a lot of interest in the market in this type of helicopter. So if you'd like to see us do more helicopters with these direct drive main power systems, let us know that. But the Infusion series is that. Infusion. Maybe we should have done it the other way around, but either way, Infusion always has, again, the direct drive main shaft motor. The Fusion series, carbon fiber, aluminum, all around, high-end series of helicopters for us. And then our other helicopters, we will be giving them names.
Yes.
Starting next year. So no more just the 230 or just the 120.
A lot
or
of numbers.
The 120S, the S2, the Smart. We're going to get rid of all that. We're going to simplify things a bit again. And also, we're going to come out with some more fixed pitch helicopters. I know you guys watching this probably aren't interested in that, but you know, on the entry-level side of things, get the price down, get the complexity of the product down, you know, name it FP, so if people know it stands for fixed pitch, CP for collective pitch, 3D if it can do 3D, so on and so forth. So all these things are really important to us. I'm excited about the future of Blade.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. Again, the Fusion 700 is, I'm already excited.
Yeah, next year, 20th anniversary. I still can't believe that. So 2005 was when we first released the original Blade CP. We're coming up on 2025. We have one of the biggest, we do have the biggest, baddest, best Blade helicopter we've ever had yet. And then we're just going to have a bunch more helicopters to go along with it coming out soon. So if you are watching this and you started flying with a Blade helicopter, put in the comments which helicopter it was and when that was. I would love to see that. And then let us know what you'd like to see from us in the future.
Yeah.
We would love to see more comments here on Facebook during this live now. It'd be great, even if you watch us a little later on. And then when we put this on YouTube, please be sure to leave those comments. We love reading that stuff.
Yeah. This guy says, can you face the ESC the other way so you don't have to remove the canopy each battery change? I was about to say, with the tray mounting in from the front,
there's no way.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit hard to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. But these are things that we're going to keep in mind for future
Yes.
designs. You know, and that's one thing. We're not going to keep this helicopter exactly the way it is for 20 years. Like we talked about early on, though, 5 years, 10 years, we get it. That's when people want. They want that consistency. But if a bunch of people say, hey, I want to not have to take the canopy off, I get that. So, yeah, these are things that we can consider.
Nice.
This
Spencer says, congrats on coming back to the 700 market, guys. Glad you guys are back. My first heli was a Blade CX2.
Ah, Blade CX2. Oh, we sold so many Blade CX2s.
Bill Grant had the MCX2 in 2014.
Oh, it's awesome. MCX, yeah, so MCX was a big one. You know, hey, I'll tell you what, if you would like to see us bring those back, either of those, just for nostalgia's sake, for fun, you know, we could do potentially a limited run of MCXs
That would
or
be cool.
CX2s. A little bit, I see some of this nostalgia in the RC market, not only on the helicopters a little bit. We actually saw, like today, some old school helicopters towing the flag around during the national anthem. That was
awesome.
really cool to see.
Really cool.
And then on this RC car side of things, I see a lot of nostalgia for the 80s vehicles.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
the Tamiya stuff has really come back on strong. Some of the old low-C stuff they brought back and revamped newer versions of the old cars. Maybe we could do that with helicopters. I mean, 20 years, okay.
And honestly, I've had a lot of fun, like even the 120 S2 down here. It's a fun fixed pitch helicopter. I've had a lot of fun with fixed pitch. And trust me, I like 3D, but the fixed pitch helis are fun.
This is a good example of a helicopter. This thing is like 15 years old. We've had many iterations, but we still sell it. We still support it with parts. So if you have one of these from all those years ago, you can still get parts for it. And that's because it continues to be a bestseller. And I know a lot of guys watching this are going to say, I have no interest in that. And that's okay. This isn't for everyone. Not every helicopter is for everyone, and that's why we make so many. Same thing with our airplanes, same thing with radios, so on and so forth. So we don't necessarily think we can be everything to everyone, but we do want to do our best to cover the widest range of audience possible.
That's awesome. Yeah, Dan had the SR in 2010. David said he learned on the Blade CP when it came out.
Congrats on that, because that thing was not easy to fly. In the original one, it was nickel metal hydride battery, flat bottom blades, brushed motor. The gyro was terrible. Oh, but it taught you to be a pretty darn good pilot. The guys nowadays have no idea how easy it is compared to back then.
Right.
Although I'm sure Gary, I don't know if this will date him, but I bet he was flying before gyros were out.
Yeah.
Yep.
He said, yep. Without a doubt.
So he had it, I mean, way back then. I remember in the 80s when I was watching guys fly helicopters, it was unbelievable that they could fly them at all. So.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us. You got to get ready to night fly.
That's right, I do.
I'm
I
excited.
gotta make sure my batteries are charged.
Oh, yep. I better let you do that because it is getting dark. We're getting close to time. But thank you guys for joining us. Please,
thank you all so much. Again,
some
and
comments in
continue
the
to
chat.
leave comments. Like, we'll be happy to answer for sure. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
we'll see y'all.